Hi, my name is Christopher Spees, and this is my summary on the interview that I did for class. So, the person I interviewed was a guy named Andrew Saling. He's an old colleague of mine. He studied at Franklin University in the criminal justice program, and he's worked at Walmart for the past 15 years. Now, relevant, the last 7 years he's worked as an asset protection coordinator. So, he deals with security and theft either internally or through customers. So I asked him 10 questions, just like everyone else asked 10 questions. So I'll just go through them. So the first one, I just kind of threw it out there, So to start, what kind of is a catch-all concept for techno reporting? How does it relate to his reports on a regular basis? And he said it basically influences everything. He has to watch his language, he has to know his audience, and he has to know the business communication aspects. He said it's different, if he's sending an email versus a text. Um, the text obviously is a lot more loose and doesn't have to be in a professional standard, but anything that he emails or writes to anyone has to have a high level of professionalism because in his position, anything that he says in that manner could be used as a legal document. So he has to be very careful with what he says. So the second question was, since you're in a position you have to work with others, how often do people rely on him for advice or have him double check their work? And he said because he's actually so good at his job that he's the go-to guy. A lot of people come to go have him help them with their work. He deals with all sorts of people. He deals with people who are on his level that just want double checked, or he's dealing with people who they're struggling a little bit, and he helps them bring it up to a level that, as he put, doesn't suck. He tries to get layman's terms, so at least everyone can have a general understanding of what's being said. But he says sometimes, he has to rewrite entire paragraphs for him because it's that bad. So, what are some of the things that he looks for in his reports? He said one of the big ones is grammar. He's got to make sure that the grammar's good. Does it flow and does the message come across? What he's trying to say, does it actually come across as what he's, in the article? An example that he gave is, if he has an orange box and he's trying to tell you that he has an orange box, he has to make sure that he gives you all the details that are required to say, hey, yep, I've got an orange box. So, next question was, how does techno reporting help you when creating presentations for when you go to court? Because apparently he goes to court a lot. He says, so it has a lot of influence on whether it's related to court. Because he goes, but sometimes people above him go. So it depends on who's getting it. If he's giving it to his district manager and they're going to court, for some big case fraud, or if he's going himself. He'll also change it up a little bit if he knows he's going to be addressing the judge or if he's going to be addressing jurors. And he actually went as far as, since he's worked with the district attorney several times, he actually has created an official document that represents his stance on, things that happen at Walmart. So that can be used as a document, so they don't have to bring him in every time they want to say, well, what is Walmart's policy on this particular situation? So it saves him a lot of trips and it saves the DA a lot of headaches. So I figured since I was talking about court, I was going to flip that and go, so how does that change when, presenting to the company? And one of the examples he gave was when he does shrink reviews. And shrink is basically, the loss of product in the store for a multitude of reasons, which includes theft. So when he goes through a store, they basically tear the store apart. They go through all the finances, all the management, all, front end, back end, pretty much the entire store. And then when they've got all that information, depending on who they're presenting it to, if it's just upper management, they'll keep it high detail and very technical. But if it has to go across the entire store, they have to make sure that they're presenting it at a level that everybody understands while keeping the detail that's needed, because some of the departments may be getting hit worse than others, so they have to be able to know what the issues are so they can go and fix it. The next question was, how does he go about writing reports when he has to work collaboratively? And he says generally what they do is they'll break it down, different tasks for different people. He said one example was that he himself was never a department manager, but one of his coworkers was actually a clothing department manager. So if they ever have to do a report that involves that, or involves several areas including clothing, he always have her work on that because she was familiar with it. She kept in a good standing, so she knows what a good status quo is for that. And then they'll usually come together and they'll each write their own report, and then they'll bring them all together and just make one nice collaborative report. And then I was kind of curious more about the court situation, so I asked him, has there been any situations where either him or someone else has screwed up and someone's gone off because of poor technical reporting? And he said, yeah, it happens every once in a while. The one that he mentioned was there was someone had come into several retail stores, including Walmart, where he worked, and were using stolen credit cards to buy merchandise and then sell it for cash outside the store. And unfortunately, he had a good report, but he didn't have physical evidence because he saw the guy, but the camera they had didn't have a good angle at the guy. And where it relied on the other stores, they actually didn't have the reporting up to snuff, and the guy was able to get out. So he got a non-guilty verdict when he said, yeah, I knew the guy was guilty. But it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. So, and then the last few questions, I talked about, his skills in technical reporting. Does he ever end up having to teach anyone those basic sets? And he talked about something that we had talked about earlier in the book, having to use a template, which I thought was interesting. They have a structured template where it's pretty much fill in the blank for a lot of information. Those aren't really good for, the higher ups, but if they just need to get information collected from someone, they at least have a way that they can fill it out. Because he said they deal with a wide range of people, and some of them, unfortunately, don't have a strong grasp of English. So something like that definitely helps out. And then I wanted to make sure we hit on it because it came up in the chapter. So I asked him basically, how important are images in your reports? And he said, the big thing about images, they have to be relevant. If he's got a picture that's not completely relevant to whatever report he's doing, there's no reason for it then. You're wasting space and you're wasting people's times. He also said, you have to make sure the picture can hit everyone. Even if it is relevant, you can't have people guessing or trying to interpret what it might mean. It has to be related strongly to the article, but easy to understand. So you can't just, throw ink on a screen and, hope it all works out. And then one of the last question I asked him was, since he ends up writing reports on a regular basis with people that he's in constant contact with, that's easy. But how does he deal with a group that he's never met before? How does he prep for an audience that he's had no contact with yet? And he said it was one of two things. The first thing is he getting thrown to the wolves or not? If he's dealing with a group like, say, a market team that he can possibly get some background information on, he'll go ahead and do that. He'll use his contacts and try to connect with people and try to get an understanding of, what their culture is. Or, for example, if he's giving a safety speech for a construction company, he would try to get some information for that. But he said he also needs to make sure that he speaks like at a general level, because if he gives a safety speech to construction workers and he kind of says, here's how you're supposed to act, here's morals, here's OSHA, and he doesn't actually connect with them because they work there, he doesn't work there, then they're basically going to be thinking, yeah, you can say all that, but that's not how it actually is here. So he has to make sure that he tries to get some background with them, but he said, when he goes to court, if he's dealing with jurors, there's 20, 25 jurors on there that he's got absolutely no prep work for. So he said the biggest thing is professionalism. Across the board, professionalism. If he keeps that and he keeps his code of conduct appropriate, then he said he usually gets by.